Do you have cloves at home? Or maybe you don't even quite know what a clove is? It might be sitting right there, tossed aside, forgotten in the back of the kitchen cupboard, inside a little jar you don't even remember last opening. Well, I want to tell you something that might change the way you look at this simple, cheap spice from today on. A single cup of clove tea, had at night, calmly, can accompany your body in a quiet and comforting way precisely in those hours when it works hardest to recover, which is while you sleep. What's most impressive is that thousands of people have this very same opportunity in their own homes every single day and simply pass it by without imagining what they're missing. And look, I didn't come here to make you any miraculous promise, because that I don't do. I spent a good while researching, reading, and gathering what science has already observed about the clove, and what I found left me genuinely impressed. This is one of the spices with the highest concentration of protective compounds ever studied, ahead of many far more famous fruits and herbs. So, what I bring you in this video is exactly that, with care and with honesty. 6 things that science associates with the habit of drinking clove tea at night, explained in a simple way that anyone can understand, without difficult words and without padding. But before anything, I need to make this very clear, with all seriousness. And I'll repeat it at the end too. This video is only informational and educational. I am not a doctor or a nutritionist, and nothing I say here replaces the evaluation of a health professional, an exam, or a treatment. Clove tea is not medicine, it does not cure disease, and it does not take the place of any medication. If you have any health condition, take continuous use medicines, are pregnant or breastfeeding, talk to your doctor before adopting any new habit, including a tea. With that settled, let me quickly explain what this wonder is, because it will help you understand all the benefits that come next. The clove, despite what you might think, isn't a seed or just any little grain. It is, in fact, a flower picked even before it has fully opened, a small bud that's dried in the sun until it turns dark, hard, and carries that strong, unmistakable aroma we all know. And inside it lives the star of this whole story, a substance called eugenol, which is precisely what gives that striking, slightly spicy flavor, and which science has been studying for years for its protective and antioxidant properties. When you boil the clove in water, part of this eugenol and other natural compounds, the so-called polyphenols, pass into your cup. And here it's worth our understanding, in a very simple way, what these compounds do, because that's what gives meaning to everything that comes ahead in this video. Imagine your body is a house that runs non-stop, day and night, and that, from so much running, naturally accumulates a kind of internal dirt, an invisible smoke that scientists call free radicals. These molecules are like little sparks that over time keep wearing down the cells and are associated with premature aging and various health problems. Well, antioxidants, like the eugenol and polyphenols of the clove, work like true guards of that house, helping the body defend itself better from these day-to-day aggressions. In other words, when you drink a cup of clove tea, you're offering the body a natural combination of substances that science associates with this protection. It isn't magic, it's the quiet power of a simple habit repeated with consistency. And that's why I want you to stay with me until the very end of this video, without skipping any part. Because I'm going to show you the 6 benefits one by one, the way science observes them, and the 6th of them is at the same time surprising and the easiest of all to apply. Besides that, near the end, I'll teach you the right way to prepare the tea to make the most of these compounds, and I'll explain who needs to be careful, what the contraindications are, and a few golden rules for using the clove safely and wisely. So go ahead and leave your like, subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone you love, and comment the word clove down below so I know you're here with me. Let's begin with the first benefit. The first benefit, and perhaps the most beautiful of all to begin with, is the protection of your cells precisely during the time you're sleeping. Let me explain this to you calmly, because when you understand what happens inside your body, everything makes more sense. All day long, your body works without rest, the heart beats thousands and thousands of times, the lungs breathe non-stop, The stomach digests everything you eat, the muscles move with every gesture, and the brain stays switched on the whole time, thinking, solving, feeling, and all this functioning, as natural as it is, ends up generating a kind of internal dirt, those unstable molecules we called free radicals. Picture them as little loose sparks inside the house, one or another the body puts out on its own, no problem. But when these sparks accumulate in excess, day after day, year after year, they keep wearing down the cells little by little, like a drop of water that bores through stone. And this silent wear is associated with faster aging, with the weakening of the body, and with a series of health problems that show up further down the road. That's why antioxidants are so important, because they're the ones that help the body put out these sparks before they cause damage. And this is exactly where clove tea comes in so interestingly, because it's naturally very rich in these antioxidants, mainly our already familiar eugenol and the polyphenols. Some studies I came across during my research observed something that really caught my attention. People who consumed, for about 90 days, an extract rich in these clove compounds showed an important increase in a substance called glutathione. And why is that interesting for you to understand? Because glutathione is known as one of the most valuable antioxidants the body itself produces, a kind of natural defense shield for our cells. In other words, the clove doesn't only act from the outside in, it seems to give the body a helping hand to reinforce its own defenses. Now, I need to be honest and fair with you. As I promised at the beginning, a study with a concentrated extract done under specific conditions is not the same thing as a cup of homemade tea. And no one can promise you guaranteed results from a little tea. What these studies show is that the cloves compounds do have real antioxidant potential worthy of attention, and that offering them to the body in a natural way can be a smart choice within a healthy routine. And why do this at night? Exactly. That's the part I find most fascinating. And that gives full meaning to the theme of this video. It happens that it's during sleep that our body carries out a good part of its maintenance and repair work. While you rest, the body takes advantage of that silence to fix what was worn down during the day, to renew, reorganize, and prepare for tomorrow. It's almost like a maintenance crew that only goes into action when the factory closes its doors and everyone goes home. So, offering the body these protective compounds precisely during that period, with a warm cup had before sleeping, is like handing quality material to the crew that will work through the night. It's not that the tea will perform an overnight miracle, far from it. It's that it accompanies and supports a process your body already does naturally, in a gentle and natural way. Many people think like this, but it's just a tea, that doesn't change anything. And that's exactly where the most common mistake of all lies. Because it isn't an isolated cup, had one day and forgotten the next, that changes anything. It's the simple habits, repeated with consistency, day after day, that most influence the way we age over the course of a life. The great results almost always come from the small things done regularly. And if this first benefit, which is this silent protection of your cells while you sleep, already made you look at that forgotten little jar of clove in the cupboard with new eyes, get ready. Because the second benefit touches on something you may feel on your own skin every morning when you wake up. You know that feeling of a heavy body, of stiff joints, of getting out of bed a bit rusty, as if you'd slept in the wrong position even though you slept well? Well, there's an explanation for that, and it has everything to do with a small fire that many people carry inside without even noticing. And the clove has something to say about this, so don't go anywhere, because we're going to dive now into that second benefit, which is one of the ones that most makes a difference in the daily life of those already past 50. The second benefit is the help against inflammation, and I need to explain this word to you calmly, because it frightens more than it should. Inflammation, deep down, is simple to understand. It's when the body gets irritated on the inside. Think of a small controlled fire. When you hurt yourself, when you catch a cold, the body lights this fire on purpose, in the right dose, to defend and heal itself. That's great. It's a sign your defense is working. The problem isn't the fire itself, it's when it doesn't go out. When that fire stays lit low day and night for months and years without your even noticing, it starts to charge a price. That's when those aches that come and go appear, the tiredness that won't pass, the stiffness in the joints, that feeling of diffuse unwellness we can't quite explain. And see if you recognize yourself in this. You know, when you wake up in the morning with a heavy body, stiff joints, feeling a bit rusty, as if you'd slept crooked even though you slept the whole night? Sometimes that feeling improves after you move around a bit, sometimes it stays with you all day. This state of chronic, silent inflammation is very common, especially from 50 on, and many people live with it thinking it's just age, when in fact, it's a message from the body. And this is where the cloves compounds enter the story in a way that deserves your attention. During my research, I found laboratory studies with clove extracts that showed results that truly surprised me. In some of these experiments, done under controlled conditions, inflammation was reduced expressively within the first hours after the extract was applied. Now, pay close attention to this part because this is where I make a point of being honest with you. So as not to sell you an illusion, these tests were done in a laboratory setting with concentrated extracts. And that's not exactly the same as what happens in the human body when we drink a cup of homemade tea. I can't promise you that tea will put out your aches, and it wouldn't be right to do so. But what these studies make clear is that the cloves compounds, especially eugenol, carry a real, robust anti-inflammatory potential that science has been investigating seriously. And when we add that to the antioxidant potential I told you about in the previous benefit, it starts to make sense why this dried little flower has been so valued for so many centuries by peoples all over the world. It isn't a new fad, it's an ancient knowledge that modern science is confirming little by little. Now, let me give you a bit of context that I think is important, because there's no point in my telling you about a tea and you thinking it on its own solves everything. Chronic inflammation has a lot to do with the whole of our life, with what we eat, with the excess of ultra-processed foods, with too much sugar, with poor sleep, with the stress that never lets up, with the lack of movement. A clove tea at night won't undo, on its own, the effects of an unruly routine. It would be naive of me to tell you that. What it can be is one more piece, a gentle ally within a lifestyle that's heading in the right direction. Think of it as one of the guests at a good table, and not as the only dish, together with a more colorful and natural diet, with good nights of sleep. With light walks and moments of calm, this warm tea had at night can add up, offering the body those compounds that help calm that silent fire precisely in the period when the body dedicates itself most to repairing itself. It's the sum of the small choices, made with care and consistency, that builds the result we feel further down the road upon waking with a body a little lighter. And if you, like so many people who've passed 50, know that feeling of stiffness upon waking and those aches that insist on appearing well, I'm sure this benefit touched a sensitive spot for you. But hold your curiosity, because the third benefit speaks of something you may feel precisely at night, a few hours before going to bed, after that dinner or that late night snack. You know that bloated belly, that feeling of a stomach too full, that trapped gas that seems like it just won't come out, and that makes you lie down uncomfortable and toss in bed without finding a position? Well, the clove has a very specific property that speaks directly to this problem, so common and so bothersome. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to unravel now this third benefit, which is quite a relief for those who suffer with heavy digestion at the end of the day. The third benefit is one of the ones that most makes a practical difference in daily life, because it speaks to a discomfort almost everyone has felt: heavy digestion at the end of the day. Let me paint the scene and tell me if you recognize yourself. It's about 10 at night, you had dinner a little later or ate more than you should have, and now there you are, sitting on the couch or already lying down, with a bloated belly, that feeling of a stomach too full, a trapped gas that seems like it just won't come out, and the uncomfortable certainty that you'll roll from side to side in bed without finding a position. It's a terrible feeling that disturbs sleep and makes the night seem longer. Well, the clove has a very specific property that speaks to this problem. Scholars use a difficult word to describe it, carminative, but the meaning is simple and comforting. They're substances that help the body deal better with the gases trapped in the intestine, easing that feeling of bloating and the discomfort that comes with it. It's no coincidence that so many cultures around the world for centuries have used aromatic spices like the clove precisely after meals to help settle the stomach. It's a knowledge as ancient as it is wise. And it doesn't stop there, because science went to look more deeply at what the clove does in our digestive system and found interesting things worth my telling you about, always with honesty. Some scientific reviews observe that the clove's compounds may help calm those little intestinal spasms, which are some involuntary contractions that cause pain and discomfort, common, for example, in those who live with a more sensitive or irritated gut. Besides that, the clove is known for having a natural action against certain microorganisms, and studies even investigate its role in the face of a bacterium that lives in many people's stomachs and that's linked to problems like gastritis. Notice that I choose my words carefully here, and I do it on purpose. I'm not telling you that clove tea treats gastritis, cures ulcers, or replaces any medicine, because that would be irresponsible of me and simply isn't true. What I'm telling you is that science sees in the clove compounds with properties it considers worthy of study, and that, within a balanced routine, this little tea can be a natural and gentle support for your digestive comfort. Whoever treats gastritis, ulcers, or any stomach condition is your doctor, and the tea never takes the place of that. And now pay close attention to this warning, because it's as important as the benefits, and it's part of my commitment to being honest with you from beginning to end. Precisely because it's a strong aromatic spice, the clove doesn't sit well with everyone in the same way, especially when the subject is the stomach. If you're a person who suffers with more sensitive gastritis, with strong reflux, with that burning that rises, the clove at first may even bother rather than relieve, depending on how your body reacts. That's why the golden rule here is to start slowly with very little clove, a small amount, and observe carefully how your body responds in the first few days. If it sits well, great. If it bothers you, respect your body's signal and talk to a professional before insisting. Every body is unique, and what's wonderful for one person may not be ideal for another. This attentive listening to your own body without rushing and without excess is what turns a habit into something truly healthy instead of becoming one more source of discomfort. Near the end of the video, when I teach you the right way to prepare it, I'll reinforce these amounts and these cautions, so stay with me until then. And if this third benefit already made you think of that discomfort after dinner, get ready, because the fourth benefit enters a subject that worries very, very many people, especially after a certain age. And that also happens a lot at night, the balance of blood sugar. You'll understand why drinking this tea precisely after dinner may have an interesting logic, and what science has already observed about the clove's compounds and the way the body deals with glucose. But I'll also give you the necessary warnings, with all frankness, because this is a topic that calls for extra responsibility. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to dive now into that fourth benefit. The fourth benefit is one of the ones that most spark interest, because it speaks of a subject that worries many people, especially after a certain age, the balance of blood sugar. And here I need to tread with even greater care in my words, because this is a serious topic, one that calls for responsibility. Let's get to what science observes. Some studies suggest that the compounds present in the clove, mainly the eugenol and polyphenols I've already introduced to you, may help the body deal more efficiently with glucose, that sugar that circulates in the blood after we eat. The observed idea is that these compounds seem to help soften the exaggerated sugar spikes that tend to happen right after meals, those highs and lows that tire the body over time. Besides that, some studies point to a possible support in what specialists call insulin sensitivity, which is, in a very simple way, the body's ability to make good use of the sugar it receives, instead of leaving it left over in the circulation. And there are records of research in which people who consumed compounds derived from the clove showed improvement in some markers linked to blood sugar. It's a promising field of study and one that deserves attention. But now, I need to stop and talk eye to eye with you, with all frankness, because this is the most important part of this topic. More important even than the benefits. Nothing, absolutely nothing of what I said above means that clove tea controls diabetes, replaces your medication, or does away with your doctor's follow-up. That isn't true, and I would never tell you such a thing. If you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, your treatment, your medicines, and your doctor's guidance are non-negotiable. And the tea does not take the place of any of that. There's even a point of attention that's very important for you to know. If you already use medicines to lower blood sugar and add other things on your own, there's a risk of the sugar dropping too low, which is also dangerous. That's why if you're being treated for diabetes and got curious about this tea, the right and safe path is only one. Take this idea to your doctor, tell them you want to try it, and let them guide you, including on the amount and frequency, looking at your specific case. No one better than the professional who follows your body closely to tell you what makes sense for you. What science shows is that the clove has interesting compounds. What prudence dictates is that you use this as a possible support within a guided plan and never as a solitary substitute. With that warning given with all care, let me explain why drinking this tea precisely at night may have an interesting logic, always remembering that we're talking about support and not treatment. It happens that, while we sleep, the body enters that period of repair and reorganization I already told you about in the previous benefits, and that includes also the way the body manages its metabolism during the fasting hours of sleep. A cup of warm clove tea, had after dinner, accompanies the body right at the start of that period, offering those natural compounds precisely when the body is preparing for the long hours of rest. It's a moment when many people tend, on the contrary, to make choices that get in the way, like that little sweet or that heavy snack before sleeping. Swapping that habit for a warm, comforting cup of tea without sugar is in itself a small victory for those who care about the body's balance. And here that truth that runs through this whole video returns. It isn't the tea in isolation that makes the difference. It's the whole. It's the lighter dinner. It's avoiding the excess of sugar and ultra-processed foods. It's the light walk. It's quality sleep. And the tea coming in as one more gentle piece of that bigger puzzle that is caring for yourself. And look how curious, because this story of bacteria and of the body reorganizing itself during the night opens precisely the door to the fifth benefit, which speaks of something you may feel right when you open your eyes in the morning, before even getting out of bed. You know that dry mouth, that bad taste, that feeling of a scratchy throat, or that breath that isn't very pleasant upon waking? There's a very concrete explanation for that, and it has to do with what happens inside your mouth throughout the night while you sleep with your mouth still. And the clove, incredible as it may seem, has one of the actions most admired by science precisely on this point, so much so that it's been used for decades by professionals of a field you might not even imagine. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to unravel now this fifth benefit. The fifth benefit speaks of something you may feel right when you open your eyes in the morning, before even getting out of bed, and that's more common than one imagines. You know that dry mouth upon waking, that bad taste, that breath that isn't very pleasant, or that feeling of a scratchy throat? Well, there's a very concrete explanation for that, and it has to do with what happens inside your mouth throughout the night. Let me explain it to you in a simple way. While you sleep, your mouth gets stiller and drier because saliva production naturally decreases during sleep. And saliva, you should know, is a great cleaner. It's the one that during the day keeps cleaning and controlling the bacteria that naturally live there. When it decreases at night, these bacteria find the perfect environment to multiply freely, with no one to bring order to the house. It's this multiplication over the hours of sleep that is often behind that taste and that bad breath we wake up with. It isn't necessarily a lack of hygiene, it's the body's own natural functioning during the night. And this is precisely where the clove shows one of its properties most admired by science, and I'd even say one of the most impressive of all. The clove is known for having one of the most potent antibacterial actions among natural spices. The studies observed that its compounds, with the spotlight again on our dear eugenol, act against various types of bacteria, and what most caught my attention in the research is that it seems to hinder even the ability of these bacteria to organize themselves and fix onto tissues, forming those stuck together colonies that scientists call biofilm, which is, for example, what forms plaque on the teeth. And look how interesting for you to understand how seriously this is taken. The clove hasn't been used this way for a short time, as a fad. It's been used for decades within dentistry. That's right. Dentists themselves make use of eugenol, the clove's main compound, in procedures linked to toothache, to infections, and to the cleaning of root canals. In other words, that dried little flower forgotten in your cupboard is the same substance that science took into the dental office. When we stop to think about that, it becomes hard to look at the clove as just any spice. Now, let me make an important clarification here, because I don't want you to understand the thing wrong and create an expectation that isn't real. Drinking clove tea at night may offer these antibacterial action compounds to your body, and many people report liking precisely that feeling of a cleaner mouth and a more comfortable throat. But this does not in any way replace the basic and irreplaceable care with your oral hygiene. The tea is a possible gentle complement and not a shortcut. Brushing your teeth well, caring for the tongue, using dental floss, and visiting your dentist regularly remain the foundation of everything, and nothing, no tea in the world, takes the place of that. Think of the tea as that extra bit of care, the extra bit of affection at the end of the day, and not as an excuse to loosen up on the basics. And that ever-present good sense also applies. Because it's aromatic and strong, the ideal is to have the tea and, if it's the case, still take care of hygiene before sleeping, for your comfort. It's the sum of the simple bits of care, done with consistency, that keeps your mouth and throat healthier and more comfortable over time, especially in those silent small hours. And now we arrive at that moment I've been promising since the very beginning of this video, the sixth benefit, the one I told you is at the same time the most surprising and the simplest of all to apply. And it is, in a way, the one that ties all the others together, because it speaks precisely of what gives meaning to drinking this tea at night, relaxation and the quality of your sleep. Besides it, it's in this last topic that I'll finally teach you, step by step, the right way to prepare the clove tea to make the most of all these compounds, the ideal amount, the best time, and I'll also reinforce, with all seriousness, who needs to be careful and what the contraindications and golden rules are for using this spice safely and wisely. So stay with me, because this grand finale gathers the most pleasant benefit of all and the most important information for you to start today safely. Don't go anywhere. We arrive at the sixth and last benefit, the one I've been promising since the very beginning, and that is at the same time the most surprising for its simplicity and the one that gives full meaning to drinking this tea precisely at night, relaxation and the improvement of sleep quality. Let me explain to you why it closes this journey with a golden key. The aroma and natural compounds of the clove, with the spotlight again on eugenol, are known for a calming, gentle effect on the body. Many people who drink the tea report a pleasant feeling of comfort, of warming from within, of relaxation, especially after a long, hurried, stressful day. And think with me, a good part of the difficulty we have in sleeping well doesn't come from the body. It comes from the mind that won't slow down, from that agitation we carry all the way to the pillow. The simple ritual of stopping everything, heating the water, smelling the aroma of the clove rising, holding the warm cup between your hands, and drinking slowly, in silence, is in itself an invitation to rest. It's a message you send to your own body that the day is over, that now it's time to lower your guard and rest. And since it's during the night that the body enters that natural state of physical and mental recovery, reaching bed calmer and more relaxed helps the body truly slow down, favoring a deeper and more revitalizing rest. And now the most practical part of all has arrived, the one you need to write down. Because there's no point in knowing the benefits if you don't know how to prepare the tea the right way to make the most of these compounds. So grab paper and pen because it's simple. The ideal is to use 5 to 7 little cloves for roughly 250 to 300 ml of water, the equivalent of a large cup. And pay attention to this detail. Because it makes a difference, the most recommended thing is to first heat the water until it starts to boil, and only then add the cloves. Doing it in this order, you better preserve the aromatic and active compounds of the spice, mainly our famous eugenol, which is sensitive and doesn't like being boiled too long from the start. After putting the cloves in the hot water, let it boil on low heat for another 3 to 5 little minutes. Then, turn off the heat, cover the cup or the pot, and let it rest covered for another 5 little minutes before drinking. That resting time, with the lid on, helps release the clove's natural compounds into the water better and also brings the tea to the ideal temperature. It's best to have it warm, never boiling, preferably about 30 minutes before you lie down to give the body time to receive everything calmly. And a golden tip, don't sweeten it with sugar so as not to throw away precisely the care you're taking. If you need it, a touch of another spice like cinnamon already gives a nice flavor. And now comes the part that to me is the most important of the whole video, the one I won't give up telling you with all seriousness. Because truly caring for you is also warning you of the risks and not only the benefits. Pay close attention to who needs to be cautious with clove tea. People with active gastritis, with reflux, with ulcers, or with liver problems should take extra care because the clove's main compound can irritate a more sensitive stomach. Another very serious point, those who use anticoagulant medications, those blood-thinning medicines, need special attention because in excess, the clove can interfere with clotting, and that's no joke. It's a mandatory conversation with the doctor before anything. Pregnant women, women who are breastfeeding, and small children should also avoid the frequent use of the clove without a professional's guidance. And, as a golden rule that applies to everyone, always start with a small amount, observe how your body reacts in the first few days. Don't overdo it thinking the more the better, because with strong spices excess tends to work against you, and never, ever use the tea to replace a medicine or a treatment you already follow. The clove is a food, a gentle natural support, and not a medication. And it's for all of this that I make a point of reinforcing, here at the end as I did at the beginning, with all honesty and all care, this video is only informational and educational. I am not a doctor or a nutritionist, and nothing I've shared here replaces the evaluation, the exam, or the treatment of a health professional. Everything I brought is information that science has been studying about the clove, gathered so that you may know it, take an interest, and, above all, talk to whoever cares for your health before adopting any new habit. Every body is unique, yours has a history, and whoever follows you closely is the person best suited to say what makes sense in your case. If you have any health condition or use medicines, take this conversation about clove tea to your doctor calmly. Doing things with information and with safety is what turns a simple little tea into a truly healthy habit instead of an unnecessary risk. And it's like this, with care and with affection for yourself, that I want you to enjoy everything you've learned here. And so we come to the end of this journey together. And look how much you've learned about that dried, forgotten little flower that was perhaps left in the back of your cupboard. You discovered that the clove, through compounds like eugenol and polyphenols, carries a potential that science associates with 6 lovely things when the tea is had with consistency at night: the protection of your cells while you sleep, the help against that silent fire of inflammation and the stiffness upon waking, the relief of heavy digestion and bloating after dinner, a possible support for the balance of blood sugar, the admirable action on the mouth and throat upon waking, and finally, the pleasant relaxation that prepares the body for a deeper night's sleep. You also learn the right way to prepare it, with those 5 to 7 cloves, the water boiling first, the rest with the lid on, and the care of drinking it warm half an hour before lying down. And above all, you learned the warnings that matter, because a habit is only healthy when it's done safely and with respect for your own body. Always remember the truth that ran through this whole video. It isn't an isolated cup that changes your life. It's the simple habit repeated with affection, day after day, within a routine of real food, quality sleep, light movement, and moments of calm. It's the sum of the small things that builds the big difference. Now I need to ask you three little things because they help our work a lot and cost you nothing. The first, tell me here in the comments if you already knew these benefits of the clove and which of the six surprised you the most, because I read and love each of your answers. The second, comment the word clove down below as a small commitment that you're going to try this habit tonight, calmly and safely. And the third, which is the most beautiful of all, pick up your phone now and share this video with someone you love in the family group, with that friend or that dear person who's been sleeping poorly, with a heavy body, or with difficult digestion at night. Because caring for those we love is also sharing good, honest information at the right time. If this video helped you in any way, leave your like, because it helps this content reach more people who need it. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones, and tap the bell to be notified whenever I bring new content made with care and with affection for your health and well-being. And remember, always with much affection, information is the first step, but whoever cares for you is your doctor. So take what you learned here into that conversation. Take care of yourself, sleep well, and I'll be waiting for you in our next video. A big hug, and see you there.